A young captain, barely in his 30s, steps into the halls of power not through the ballot box, but through the smoke and chaos of a coup. The old government falls, the people hold their breath, and in the middle of West Africa, a new voice rises. Not a whisper, not a plea, but a roar that echoes across the continent. His message is clear, sharp, and dangerous to some. Africa will no longer bow to the West. This is the story of Captain Ibrahim Traoré and how his anti-Western populism has become a rallying cry for millions in the midst of crisis. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation of proud history and deep scars. For decades, this country has been caught in a tug-of-war between foreign influence and the dream of self-determination. Colonial rule may have officially ended in the 1960s, but its shadow still stretches across the land. International lenders dictate economic policies. Multinational corporations mine gold while villages remain in poverty. Foreign troops patrol the deserts in the name of security, while insurgents still terrorize communities. The young captain saw it all firsthand, not from the comfort of an office, but from the front lines. He was there when soldiers went under-equipped into battle. He was there when villagers cried for protection and help never came. And he was there when his nation's sovereignty felt like a bargaining chip in a global game where Burkina Faso was never the player, only the pawn. So when Traoré took power in 2022, his first message was not about pleasing foreign capitals. It was about reclaiming control. His words were sharp. We will no longer be slaves to those who claim to help us. These were not empty speeches. They were declarations of intent. Within months, he began cutting military ties with Western nations, expelling foreign forces, and turning toward regional alliances and non-Western partners. To some in the West, this was reckless. To many in Africa, it was revolutionary. Because here's the truth. Across the continent, there is a rising hunger for leaders who will speak without fear to the powers that have long exploited Africa's resources, dictated its policies, and undermined its unity. Traoré's rise came at the perfect storm. Growing frustration with Western double standards, economic crises fueled by foreign debt, and the sense that Africa's destiny was still not in African hands. And then came the rhetoric, powerful, fiery, and deeply rooted in history. Traoré invoked the spirit of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's legendary revolutionary leader, who once said that he who feeds you controls you. Sankara had also faced Western hostility for trying to make his nation self-reliant. Traoré picked up that same torch, not as a historian telling old tales, but as a living embodiment of that resistance. Every public address became more than a political statement. It became a rallying cry. In marketplaces, in university halls, in dusty rural squares, people began quoting him, sharing videos of his speeches, and even printing his image on shirts and posters. Social media became a battlefield of its own, with TikToks and memes celebrating the soldier who defied the West. But this was not just about symbolism, it was about concrete action. Traoré moved to nationalize key natural resources, revising mining contracts so that more of the profits stayed within Burkina Faso. He pushed for agricultural self-sufficiency, declaring that the country must feed itself before it ever relies on imported grain. He began building infrastructure, roads, bridges, and schools, even as the insurgency raged. The message was clear. We will build under fire if we must, but we will not stop building. Of course, his stance brought enemies. Western diplomats warned of isolation. International organizations hinted at sanctions. Media outlets in Europe painted him as a dangerous populist with authoritarian tendencies. But for many Africans, this was proof that he was doing something right. Because history had shown that any African leader who truly tried to break free from foreign control would face the wrath of the very powers they opposed. And while critics called his policies anti-Western, supporters called them pro-African. They saw his defiance not as hatred, but as a form of self-respect, the kind of pride that comes from saying, our destiny is our own. The movement spread beyond Burkina Faso's borders. In Mali, Niger, Guinea, and other parts of West Africa, young people began holding up Traoré's picture alongside their own leaders, demanding similar courage. Pan-Africanism, the vision of a united, self-reliant Africa, began to feel less like a dream and more like a rising tide. But the road ahead was, and still is, dangerous. The insurgency inside Burkina Faso has not disappeared. Armed groups still carry out attacks. Displacement has reached historic levels. And without foreign military support, the burden falls heavily on the national army and local defense groups. Every decision Traoré makes is a gamble. Build too slowly, and hope fades. Move too quickly, and the risks grow. Yet his gamble has a moral weight. Because for the first time in a long time, many Burkinabe feel they have a leader who speaks their language, not just linguistically, but emotionally. He does not stand above them. He stands among them, wearing the same fatigues, walking the same dirt roads, looking into the same storms that they face every day. Internationally, his image is divisive. To some, he is the embodiment of dangerous nationalism. To others, he is the kind of leader Africa has been waiting for, unapologetic, assertive, unwilling to play by the old colonial rules. And whether his critics like it or not, he has forced a conversation that many tried to avoid. What does true independence look like for Africa in the 21st century? It's here that the story turns from a coup into a movement, because a coup is just the changing of power at the top. But a movement spreads into the hearts of ordinary people. It changes the way they see themselves. It changes what they demand from their leaders. It changes what they are willing to fight for. In the streets of Ouagadougou, murals now depict Traoré alongside Sankara and other African icons. In rural markets, his speeches play from old radios as traders sell produce under the hot sun. In the diaspora, African youth share his quotes online as symbols of a new era, one where African leaders are not afraid to say no to those who have taken so much for so long. But there's a deeper truth beneath the slogans and headlines. Traoré's real challenge is not just in rejecting the West, it's in proving that Burkina Faso can stand on its own. Anti-Western populism can ignite a crowd, but it's the daily work of governance, securing the nation, growing the economy, uniting a diverse people, that will determine whether his legacy is a rallying cry or just another chapter in a long history of unfulfilled promises. The stakes are enormous, because if Burkina Faso succeeds under this vision, if it can build a self-reliant economy, protect its people without foreign occupation, and inspire a generation to believe in their own power, it will not just change one country, it will send a shockwave across Africa and the world. And that is exactly what some fear and others pray for. So the question now is not whether Traoré has the will. That much is certain. The question is whether he and the people he leads can endure the storms that will come. Can they withstand the pressure from powerful nations? Can they outlast the insurgency? Can they keep building while under fire? Because this is more than politics. It's more than economics. It's the age-old fight for the soul of a nation, a fight that has played out on African soil for centuries. And perhaps years from now, when history looks back on this moment, it will not just remember the coup. It will remember the rallying cry. It will remember a young soldier who stood in the eye of the storm and told the world, "We will not bow." And whether you agree with him or not, you cannot deny this. Captain Ibrahim Traoré has shaken Africa awake.